such this amazing turnout, truly. And Mary Lou and Joe, where I know you're here, I just saw you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for having us and dedicating this time to the campaign. I want to say thank you to each of you as well. You had choices about tonight. You could be home, you could be in your PJs, you could be down at the river, you could be a lot of places, but you chose to come here and to support this campaign, and I sincerely appreciate it. I also want to point out my amazing wife. I always forget to do this, y'all, and I need brownie points. My amazing wife, Lisa Newman, she is one of my biggest cheerleaders, and I so appreciate you. Heather's right here videotaping. She is my campaign manager. Heather keeps me on the straight and narrow, girl. She doesn't let me get away with nothing. And so I really, really appreciate, Heather, your time and effort in wrangling me. So thank you for that. I want to start us off with a story today. Do you want to have a seat and get comfy? There's a seat here and here. Okay. Relax. Pull up a chair. Yeah. I'm going to start us off with a story. So think back to the early 90s. It was 1992. And I was in my first year of teaching at middle school and coaching. Great experience. And I was teaching PE at the time and coaching middle school volleyball, basketball, and track. And we were about 3 months into the school year, right? And y'all, I looked super cool because I had my brightly colored windsuit on, it was kind of shiny back there, and if I wanted to have a little extra sass, I just popped that collar up. I'm doing this. I had a brand new shiny whistle. I'm styling. I had my high ponytail with my bangs that were curled and teased at least 2 inches above my forehead. I had it
way into the 2010s.
Yeah. I have a hard time letting the 80s go. I'm just saying.
Maybe back in the 80s.
Yeah. But anyway, so I'm teaching PE with my partner Carolyn, my fellow coach, and first period for all of our classes we were doing a volleyball unit with all of our kids. And first period just happened to be a really small period. Class size, and so sometimes other groups of kids would come, sometimes kids, who, small groups, maybe they were cognitively or physically disabled, or they might have some behavior issues, or they just didn't make some good behavior choices, and were then under the guise of, a dedicated teacher to wrangle them in. And so anyway, so first period, we have a group come down, and it's just a few kids, and they're going to join us for this volleyball unit. And we were putting all of our skills together, and we're going to play a game. And so Carolyn and I get the kids, our students, and then their students, and we get them on the court, and we're going to, we set them up so that they can rotate like you do in volleyball. And the teacher of this small group had told us, sometimes our kids will act out because it's attention-seeking behavior. They just want attention. Don't give it to them. Ignore them. We will take care of it. I'm like, cool, sweet, we're going. So we get the kids lined up, and we start the game, and we're serving, and we're, Carolyn and I are playing because proximity is good classroom control, but really it just boiled down to we just wanted to play. And so we're playing, and we are about 3 rotations in. You rotate after every server finishes their turn, and we're about 3 rotations in. Well, Tiffany and Ryan end up at the net together on opposite sides. And Tiffany and Ryan sometimes had a beef with one another. And mind you, Ryan's kind of a little guy. They're both 8th grade. Ryan's a little guy. Tiffany's kind of a tall and broad. And so anyway, they are at the net. Carolyn and I are keeping an eye on them, as is their teacher. What we didn't know as we're playing is that they were either talking smack to each other or signaling smack to each other. All of a sudden, in the middle of the game, Ryan screams, "Wah!" and takes off running, and he's running around the gym. Tiffany is right behind him, following, saying, "You better run, you bitch." And so, pardon my language. And so Ryan is screaming, Tiffany is yelling, the other teacher is like, "Okay, I got this," and he's going. but we're supposed to ignore the behavior, right? So behind me, Carolyn is at the server's line. She's like, service, and serves them all. And I just tell that story because, one of the best things about public schools is that they are microcosms of our society. They reflect what our communities look like, right? And that couldn't be more true than it is today. Because right now we have a lot of people out there, and I'm not saying one side or the other. I'm just saying we have a lot of people out there who are baiting people into fights, who are yelling and who are screaming and who are distracting us from what we need to be concentrating on. And that is this. They are distracting us from what is true and what we know is right. And that is that the Democratic Party is the party of the people. We are the party that cares about our neighbors, who serves our communities, who fights for the right to live freely for ourselves and for others. They are distracting us because they know that in 2026 we are coming for them, and we will win in 2026.
Good.
I am confident in that, and we were talking earlier, Chip, right? Chip and I, and tell me your name again. Lisa. I should know that. I'm so sorry. Talking earlier about this is a 70% Republican district. Like, I am nowhere on the radar of anybody because I'm on the Democratic ticket, and I don't have any money. So I can't change the 70% Republican, right? But I can change the money part, and that's what we're working on. So thank you for that. But in the meantime, we are just trudging forward. Like, I thought about, should I run? I ran last time for a Senate seat. And wow, that was a learning experience. I had never thought about running for office. I'm a public school principal, and so I just had never occurred to me. Public policy was really important to me because it impacted the work that we did. But running for office, not so much. My dad always said, if you can either be a star in the sky or a light in the chamber. And I always saw myself as a light in the chamber. I want to do the work. And so when someone said, hey, you should run for office, have you thought about that? I thought, no, I haven't thought about that, but yes, let's do that. and so I did, but we got into it in December, January of that election year, and it was a Senate seat, and I had 7 counties, and I had no idea what in the world I was doing, but it was a great learning experience. And so when this time came around, I thought, you know what, why would I do that again? It's a lot of time. And it's a lot of energy, and people said they were worried for me about, people are going to be mean to you. And I thought, I was a school principal, like, I can let that stuff roll. That doesn't bother me in the least. In fact, I kind of enjoy kind of robust conversations. But at the end of the day, I felt like when November 3rd, 2026 comes, I can either be on the ballot or not. And I felt that, how could I not? I just couldn't not. I had the time, I had the capacity, I had the passion, and so here I am. And I'm gonna grab my notes because I have just veered way off. Sometimes I just ramble, sorry about that. So I am running for House District 73 because we deserve better. Our communities deserve better. We deserve representation that will push back against the status quo of when equality is on the line. And we deserve representation that will ask the hard questions of the people in power and our leaders. And we deserve representation that will listen to the vulnerable. And as a school principal, I did those things. I have done that work, and I want to keep doing that work. As a principal, pushing back about equality, when I became the principal and I won't tell you where, at an elementary school late in my career, I learned that I saw books in boxes in the back of the library, like in the office of the library, and I thought, what in the world? And so I went and looked, and it didn't take long. You pull out 2 or 3 books, and you realize every one of those books were about people of color, every one of them. And those books were Newbery Award winners, Bluebonnet Award winners. I mean, it was just the oddest thing. And the former principal was still in the district, so I went to her and I said, what is this about? And she said, well, we got those books in, but we pulled them from the shelves, or we didn't put them on the shelves, whichever, because they just, I was afraid they would cause too much, conflict. And, there was language in the books, and I thought, okay, so let me go and look at the books. And so as I looked at them more, most of them were biographies or autobiographies, all again about people of color. And I thought, well, I don't understand what the language issue is about. So I pulled one of the books, just a random book, and read it, and it was called The Special Place. And it was about a little girl and her grandmother who would they'd ride the bus and go into the city and go to the special place, which at that point in the book, you don't know where that is. And the little girl was growing up, and she really wanted to be able to go into the city by herself. And so Grandma gave her the change, and she went on the bus. And at that point, as the reader, you see that the little girl is living in the Jim Crow era. And as she gets on the bus, you can see the signs that say, whites only, or blacks in the back, or whatever. And then but she doesn't know anything different, right? And so she keeps going, and she gets off the bus, and you see the water fountains, and you see the restrooms where she's not allowed to go into. And finally, she makes it to the special place. And y'all, you turn the page, and the special place is a library. And at the top of the library, it says, all are welcome. And I thought, what in the world, what kind of conflict could this cause? And so guess what? The assistant superintendent at the time was okay with having those books being pulled off of the shelf. Y'all, this was like 4 years ago. This is not 20 years ago. And so I put those books back. And then we made sure to order. We didn't have any books on Kwanzaa. We didn't, there was just no diversity in our library. And that to me is sinful, honestly. And so pushing back against the status quo. Asking tough questions at a school district where I was at. The girls' high school track team had won the state title. That is a big deal, right? Their banner didn't get put up for like 6 months, and that was only after people complained, like, why is the banner not being put up? But in the meantime, the district had paid money to buy a charter bus, I kid you not, that only the football team could use. So standing in front of the board and advocating for the girls' athletic program to be the same in the face of Title IX, it's federal freaking law, as the male athletes. But it's that kind of ignorance, I think, that blossoms when those conversations won't or can't be had. That's right. And then listening to the vulnerable. Again, as a principal, I had a little, as an assistant principal, you take care of the discipline. You're kind of the Grim Reaper, when you walk in, people go, oh my God. I had a sweet little 8-year-old in my office who had, in his classroom, flipped a desk. That's kind of a big deal. You don't do that, right? I could have dropped the hammer on him, even though that sounds a little odd, like you drop a hammer on an 8-year-old. Oh, hell yes you do, when it's warranted. But if you take the time, no 8-year-old comes to school and wants to get in trouble. They just don't. So you take some time and you talk to them. You talk to the vulnerable people and find out why are they where they are? What has happened? And come to find out, his dog had died the day before. And he was at that point in tears. And I thought, wow, what a difference this could have been. We could have way gone left on this. But when you take the time to listen to the people who aren't living their best lives, not having their best day, it matters. And right now, we all have a representative. I'm assuming everybody's in Comal County here, right? And the jokes at that. We have a representative in Austin who is supposed to represent you. But I guarantee you, she does not care about you, and she does not care about your family. And this is why I say that. This is what Carrie cares about. This is from her website. She is very proud of her AR-15. She doesn't believe in red flag laws, and she doesn't believe in safety zones for schools and churches and whatnot. Carrie Isaac with Trump, she is party line all the way. Loves her some Trump. She is all about protecting our borders, not people. protecting our borders. And this one was sent to me. It's from a social media account of hers. And it's her and her husband. Her husband, Jason, used to be the representative. Now she is. He works at the Heritage Foundation in Texas. And on this post, they are dressed like a king and a queen. And it says, I live a high carbon lifestyle, and so should the rest of the world. When I said that to Congress earlier this year, Congressman Raskin called me a carbon king. I love it and embrace it. Meet carbon king and queen. That's what Carrie Isaac believes in. And I hesitate a little bit to talk about my opponent, because it's not her campaign, it is mine. But I do think it's relevant a little bit to know what your choices are. So for some, I may not be your favorite, may not be their favorite, but this is your other choice. And it's gonna have to be one of us, right? So choose wisely. So I think about our elected officials have to be able and willing to serve the people in their communities, and that has never been more important than it is now, as the federal government is dismantling agencies like the Department of Education, Health and Human Services. And y'all, those services are coming back, those responsibilities are coming back to the states. So it is the state that's going to decide. And who's the state? The people that are elected who are sitting in Austin. This is not who I want to decide those things for me and for my family. That is frightening to me. So, but we have a way forward. As Joaquin Castro said, we can vote our way out of this mess. We have to vote our way out of this mess. Because our communities deserve representation that believes in things like public schools. As a public school principal, I think, and just as a community member, goodness gracious, public schools are the foundation of everything, right? We are the source of everything. And so protecting public schools has to be done, and it has to be done well. And I say that because public schools, the outcomes impact our economy, our workforce. You think about kids who aren't in a place where they get a good education, and then they can't get good jobs, and then it's poverty, and then guess what? Who's paying for that? Again, so public schools are so very important to individual children and to communities. And I'm gonna push back every stinking time. It's always made me mad, but now I'm just pissed off. About every time I hear schools are failing, that is bullshit. What's the other one? Anybody can teach. There used to be a big sign, and I don't know, maybe it's still there, on 410 that says, hey, you want to teach? When can you start? Yeah. And that teachers or schools are indoctrinating children. I guarantee you that is not true. None of those things are true. None of them. They've just been said and repeated that people take them as true. They just accept it and, well, yeah, but no. Those things are not true. So we've got to have representatives in there who value public schools and who are willing to stand up for teachers and to pass policy that impacts their work in a positive way so that they can work with children to the best of their ability. We deserve representation that protects our water. I grew up in this area. I moved to Canyon Lake in 1982 and had the amazing adventures on the river and at the lake. And then we were blessed to get to raise our kids here as well. And so we even have like traditions at the river. So I think about, like taking Troy, and as a 7-year-old could fish for hours, couldn't pay attention to anything else, but good Lord, he could fish for days. And we would sometimes go to Lana Park, and we could feel the little nibbles, the little minnows that would get, those are great memories. And upon graduation, whether it was a high school graduation or college, or Lisa and I both earned our PhDs in 17 and 18, and so every time we would do that, we'd go to the Guadalupe River down at Cypress Bend Park, and we do the big dunk. As a family, everybody had to dunk. Y'all, I graduated and I finished my PhD in February. It was cold. But by golly, everybody was there. So those memories are so incredibly important, but it's not just about the memories. It's about our life and it's about our economy. Because New Braunfels has a $1.3 billion industry for tourism. $1.3 billion just in New Braunfels. Fredericksburg is very similar to us. They have a $175 million industry. And why? Because they are seasonal, like fall and spring, and we are year-round because of the water. And so ways that we need to protect that surface water, I'm learning so much about water, our rivers and lakes, things like nutrient loading. So that is a super easy fix from everything I've read and learned. And what that is this, that when developments, they have to get rid of their wastewater somewhere, right? So they treat it and then they put it back in the river and in the lake. But what they don't do, because it's not in policy, they don't test for phosphorus and nitrogen. And so what ends up happening is those things are dumped back into the river and they cause algae blooms and they cause fish kills. Right now, Honey Bear Creek Ranch is a subdivision that's trying to come in over on 484. And the Texas Water Company has temporarily told them, well, we can't supply water. That doesn't mean they're not coming. Y'all, they're coming. They're just waiting for water. And if they can't get water from the Texas Water Company, they will drill a well and form a municipality utility district. And so they'll have water. But the whole point is, way out in the country, they're gonna take, they've gotta have a wastewater system. So they're gonna take that wastewater. It's not gonna be treated as well as it needs to be, and then they're dumping all of that into Potter's Creek, and which will eventually make it to the lake. And people have said, well, but it's not gonna, it'll be diluted enough by the time it gets to the lake that it'll be fine. Okay, but Mr. Ingles' ranch is there on the Potter's Creek area, and his livestock need that water. And you know what? I don't know all of the details, but his land crosses 306, so he can't even be a party to fighting this new development. I mean, the rules are just insane. So that's for surface water. Groundwater, our wells. The very first house I ever had here in Comal County was on a well. I understand the anxiousness and the need to have that lifeline and to make sure that you're still going to have it. Really?
Do they have to have some kind of permit to drill wells?
They do, but the problem is that there is no policy saying that they can't have the well. And we're gonna get more. Hang on, we're gonna get more into this. So it's a great question. So our aquifers, the western part of Comal County and Bexar County and the south part of Comal County, they're mainly on the Edwards Aquifer, and the rest of us are on the Trinity. This subdivision right here, y'all on the Trinity or the Edwards? See, I think it's split. I think the line comes right through here.
We're on the Edwards Aquifer recharge line, but the aquifer we get our water from
is the Trinity. Okay, great, thank you. I don't know if many of you know, I, again, have learned so much. The Trinity doesn't recharge very quickly. It's super deep, or maybe it's the Edwards. Anyway, it's the Trinity, okay. Anyway, we have got to be very intentional about how we protect our water. And right now, the way it works is that the legislature gets to decide pretty much who gets to develop and who gets to pull the water, because our county commissioners, municipalities like the city of New Braunfels, they got zoning authority and they've got levers to pull. Hey, if you do this, then we'll do this for you, and back and forth. The county, which is all the rest of us, they don't have that authority. And we do have the Comal Groundwater Conservation District, just like Hayes does, but again, the legislature doesn't give them the authority to really deny people, at least long term, maybe temporarily. And so, I lost my train of thought, sorry. It's just really important that we return that to our county commissioners. Sorry. Yeah, so groundwater conservation districts, there was a bill, 2660 from the House, that was that was introduced and really got a lot of traction, and it would have given groundwater conservation districts more authority, but it died in committee. And the pushback against it was that, there's this tug and pull between protecting for the greater good and our individual property rights, the rule of capture and all of that. But there was a lot of talk against the groundwater conservation districts having more power, because then they'll permit all of the private wells and they'll charge money, and that was not the case. That was just outright lie, really, because they were only going to impact the big producing wells. And so anyway, the bill died. Carrie Isaac introduced House Bill 1253, which would have given, it would have picked up all regulations. It would have removed all regulations from these big producing wells. And these are the wells that produce more than 25,000 gallons. Water guy, and here I am trying to talk about it. That produce more than 25,000 gallons a day. So if those wells are able to pull water and pull water and pull water, what does that do to your well, or his well, or her well, and so on? And the thing about these aquifers, they are so big and so long. We impact Hayes impacts us, Bexar County impacts us, we impact Bexar County, and so on. But the real crux for me is that I feel like our county commissioners have got to have more authority over our area, just like in development. I moved here in 1982. There were about 39,000 people in Comal County, and now there are more than 200,000. And I was at a meeting one time, and this lady said, "Oh, we should just, all these people moving in, and we need to stop that." When I moved here, I thought, "Oh my gosh, do you hear yourself?" It's kind of funny. I know. And so it's not necessarily a bad thing, but what is troublesome is that, again, county commissioners don't have the authority to regulate or to zone development. And so what ends up happening is, if the developer comes in and they check all the boxes, like it's my understanding, they don't really even have to go to the courthouse and talk to anybody. They fill out the paperwork, they mail it in, and they get their permit. As long as they meet the statutory laws, state laws, then they get a permit to develop. And so you think about a developer like Lennar, who comes in, and their policy, their procedure is to, and pardon my language, to rape the land. They just level everything, all of the trees, and then they will plant houses later. And so the county commissioners can't do a dang thing about that, y'all. If that developer meets the requirements, then the county commissioners are a check. The TCEQ, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, same thing. I know. They get a lot of flack, I know, but again, it's my understanding that the legislature has kind of hamstrung them into having to approve things that they may not otherwise do. I know there's a big venue that's trying to come in to Dripping Springs out off of Hugo Road, Fitzhugh Road. And out in the country, and they are talking about thousands and thousands of people being drawn to this venue. And so then you're talking about quality of life, you're talking about infrastructure, roads, water, all of those things, but it has been a battle, because really there's not much that they can do if that company checks all the boxes. And I don't think that's okay. So as your representative, I would argue for, fight for, advocate for policy that does things like incentivizes natural scaping and maybe rainwater collection. The systems are expensive, but if we incentivize them, perhaps they will become more prevalent. I'm good, thank you. Giving county commissioners more authority. Did y'all know that off of Schoenthal, that Heidelberg Materials has bought 1,000 acres? And they are they're an aggregate company. So, and we need aggregate we need them because they provide road base and, things like that. But at the same time, we need the authority to be able to say where those can go. So the other really bad thing about this is that they've bought this land and they're gonna put their business there, and they are on top of, I believe, the Trinity.
No, Redwood's out in front.
Okay. What I understand is though that where they are, there are several karst features, which are like sinkholes and caves and whatnot, where water can go and hang out until it's needed and sink in. And the problem with that is though, when an aggregate company comes in and they level that land and they start doing their business, then pollution can get into those areas. And so their solution, they have already filed with the TCEQ, is to fill them with concrete. Right? I know. And I think, wow, that again is not really the best.
I'm from Hayes County,
Mm-hmm.
and the karst in Hayes County goes all the way to Barton Springs.
Yeah.
It's all connected. And so if a farmer waters his crop over here, our lakes, our rivers go down, and everybody's well water goes down.
Right.
It's all connected.
It's all connected.
So
yeah.
the karst is like a map underground.
Yeah.
If they fill it with concrete, that's
That's
going
what I
to
was
be
saying.
really bad.
We impact Bear, they impact us, Hayes County, and so on.
Yeah.
We're going to see large transfers of water because that's the new kind of solution to this, is to move water from East Texas to Central Texas and to West Texas, where we don't have as much water. But then you think, okay, but what systems are they going through? What are the unintended consequences of doing that? Can we protect and preserve the water that we already have? So really big things. So how do we make all of this happen? This campaign, and again, thank you for being here. Like I said, I ran last time, had no idea what I was doing, learned a lot. This time, much more structured. Got really great advice from John Hatch in Hayes County, and he said mechanics and messaging. That's what makes up a campaign, mechanics and messaging. So I've been working with a team, with Heather, with Lisa, with our volunteers, to build a base. And that's what we've done. We've got teams in our communities, and I wanted to do that instead of having a broad base of volunteers because our communities are so different. New Braunfels is not like Canyon Lake. North Canyon Lake isn't like South Canyon Lake, isn't like Wimberley, isn't like Dripping Springs, isn't like Bulverde, right? So we have our teams posted, and the idea behind the teams is to let us know about community events, wear shirts out and about so that we can be present, because the only way that this campaign is going to be successful is to be present in the communities in which we serve. And the only way to do that is to be visible by shirts and having conversations. I've been to several events with volunteers, and thank you all for coming to those who have been there. When 5 or 6 people walk in wearing the same shirt, we don't have to say a thing, because if we go to the fireman fish fry on a Friday night during Lent, there is, I can't campaign there. It's not a political event. They don't want me to campaign there, and I get that. So we don't, but we show up in the same t-shirts, and people have a tendency to go, hey, tell me about that, what's going on there? At which point then you start to have conversations, because we can't win this race, this campaign, without Republicans, without independents. There just aren't enough of us, and sometimes we can't trust ourselves to everybody get out and vote. I know you will, but will all of the others. But more importantly, I want to be with Republicans and independents and people across the spectrum, because those are the people I want to serve and that I want to represent, and I can't do that if I don't know them. So we are doing that. We are starting meet and greets. They are ramping up. Again, thank you for being here. And we are getting our social media presence going. I know you can't win a campaign on social media, but I do think it's a powerful tool when it's in addition to other things. And we, of course, are doing what I like to call the F word, and that is fundraising. There is, I've learned asking for money is horrible. It's horrible. None of us want to do that. I think some of us, many people.
I love doing it. I'm embarrassed to ask for money.
I'm on the other end of that spectrum, but yeah, we will talk. I think some people would rather talk about their sex lives than about their bank accounts. They just don't want to talk about the money. And so I think some of that is their shame in asking for money, even though it's for a campaign. People don't donating to me, they're donating to the campaign, but it's such a sensitive topic. But it has to be done. And in my first campaign, I wondered, why the hell do we need all this money? Good Lord. But this is why, because money equals voter contact. Because you cannot get people to, they don't know you unless you can get in front of them. And we can, I say this campaign will be won on shoe leather, going and being and talking and meeting people. But there are lots of people, lots of areas that we can't get to, gated communities, ranches, and so the only way to do that, mailers, phone calls, social media, different ways like that, and it all costs money. And so that is why the fundraising is so critical. And the money also allows me to be considered a viable candidate, because right now I'm not, because I'm in a 70% Republican district, so nobody cares about this campaign, nobody, because there's no chance in hell I'm gonna win, right? But I don't believe that, because I believe that if we can get in front of people, and if we can talk to people, and we can make relationships, then I can, for Republicans, overcome that D beside my name that they have such difficulty with, and we can possibly win this election. I hope I've inspired you. I hope I haven't bored you, but I do want to leave you with a little story, and it's this. Again, from coaching, I don't know, it's formative years, I guess, but I was coaching a basketball team in 7th grade, and if any of you have ever seen a 7th grade girls basketball game, it's like just herds of cats, and they just run around. Anyway, but they're so passionate about it, and I loved it. So I'm on the bench, and I asked Sarah, who's sitting down here, to go check in, and I need you to go in for so-and-so. She's like, okay, go, I'll go. So she goes, and she kneels down by the scorer's table, right? And so we're playing, and then someone fouls. And when that happens, the game stops, and the referee will come over to the scorer's table, or come toward it, right? And then they announce the number of the person who fouled. So the referee's coming over, and he says, foul on number 4, and at that point, Sarah gets up, and he goes, 5, and at that point, Sarah high-fives on her way into the game. The stunned look on his face was priceless. But what I love so much about that story is that it was such an innocent action, and it was because she was so excited. And I love that in terms of this campaign, because we're not going to get everything right. I am not going to get everything right. I can't be everything to everybody, but I am excited, and I will do everything I can to win your support and the support of our communities. So with that, are there any questions for me? Yes, sir.
It's not a question, but
Okay.
I want to ask if I could just take 1 minute to do something to help.
Please. Will that involve dancing?
No taxes.
I'm not embarrassed to ask for money. I'm also president of the Blue Horizon Texas PAC, so I spend a lot of time asking people for money. And what I want to say is, we have, in our area here where we are in Comal County, we have over 13,000 Democrats who vote regularly in primary elections, okay? The secret to doing really well on that fundraising is not to go around and say, could you give me $25? Could you give me $50? The answer is, what I want to see everybody do is to write a check every month. Every month. If you can take what you spend on a cup of Starbucks coffee a week and write that as a check every month, right? If this fine lady, if this candidate here can have just 15 to 20,000 of those 13,000 plus Democrats we have in voter primaries, if just that many people will write that check every month, she is going to be more than a viable candidate. She's going to be a winner. Right? I'm one of those people who's doing that now. I want everybody here to join with me, if you will, and try and not just yourselves, but your family, your friends, your neighbors, the other contacts you have, that you know are progressives in our area, please think about making that monthly donation.
And super
Because
easy on,
that's what's gonna make the
super
difference.
easy on Act Blue. On Act Blue, it's monthly, it's super
Yep.
easy. You don't have to write a check. Put your credit card in there.
Here's
Yep.
QR code to Evelyn.
Yeah, go to Act Blue. It's super easy.
So I'm going to start by how much money do you need?
God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And also, here, this is an easy way for the campaign to save over $1,000 if y'all will sign the petition to get her on the ballot, so she doesn't have to pay the fee to be on the ballot. Just fill this information out. It asks you for your voter ID number. You can either do that or your birthday, whichever one you choose, but if you'll fill that out, we appreciate it.
That would be great, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
So the QR code,
Yeah, you have to.
the QR code that takes us to Act Blue, will there be a drop down menu that lets us have it go directly to you, or are we just going to detect to?
It goes directly to my campaign minus the processing fee.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I'm John Rogers. I have a question that has to do with Chip Boyd dropping out of his race.
Yes.
And some of his politics is going on in South County. And it's a two-part question. The second part of the question is this House redistricting, right? In Texas, in order to regenerate or create some more Republican-leaning districts, they had to chip away in some of these other districts. Has there done any recent numbers or polling or information on what that means, those new districts look like as far as competitiveness?
That I do not know. I would go to, what is the website, redistricting.com, texasredistricting.com. So I can't answer that question, I'm so sorry. I am focused on that state level,
Right.
but
Well,
paying
it's
attention
going
as
to affect the
a,
state. Whether, I mean, it's going to affect all of them across the state. Not only the federal side, but also the state.
right now it is impacting the congressional districts. It's not impacting the state or House districts for the state of Texas. Yes.
One other quick question. What is the boundaries for your district?
Thank you for asking. This is a map, if you want to look at it now or later. This is House District 73, so it includes all of Comal County and then the western part of Hayes County. So this is Hayes up here with with 35, I-35 going this way. So this district is not San Marcos, Kyle, or Buda. It is Wimberley, Dripping Springs, Driftwood, and west all the way to Blanco. Yes, ma'am.
Barry, I've been passing around your QR code.
Thank you.
And just give you a check. So I was saying you have box.
Yes, there is a box right over here. Yes, thank you.
Mary, I'm sorry, could you say again the boundaries? I couldn't.
Yeah, that's okay. So House District 73 is all of Comal County, right here, and then the western part of Hayes. So San Marcos is up here, and then Kyle and Buda, but I don't have those. I do have Wimberley, Dripping Springs, Driftwood, all the way out to Blanco. It does. So, yeah, Comal County, it does cross I-35 on the east side, so I have a little bit of shirts, but not a lot.
Right there,
A
1103.
little bit. Yeah.
Everybody, I'd like to ask everybody if you have any suggestions for Merrie Fox.
Yes. Y'all,
Suggestions.
I am all about constructive feedback. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Diana Chandler, and I